Chapter 5, That's Money. After making the phone call, the various types of meat Jiang Ran purchased at the fresh market were delivered to her door. Seeing that her shop didn't have a freezer, the shop owners repeatedly advised her to store the fresh meat in a freezer as soon as possible. Fresh meat shouldn't be left overnight. Jiang Ran smiled and agreed, explaining that the cafeteria's vehicle hadn't arrived yet. She told them to unload the goods in her shop and promised that someone would come to pick them up later in the evening. Only then did the shop owners feel relieved. An hour later, the ordered tables and seats for the restaurant were also delivered, coinciding with the arrival of the outdoor equipment from the outdoor supplies shop. However, both were large companies, and their representatives were employees. While the workers were unloading the goods, one of the drivers curiously asked, "Miss, you're getting tables and seats delivered, as well as outdoor equipment. What are you up to?" Everyone was listening intently because this combination was indeed quite unusual. Jiang Ran casually replied, "To be honest, I'm curious too. But these are the things the customers want. I'm just a worker, and I don't know the thoughts of wealthy people. They probably have special sales channels." Upon hearing this, another driver leaned in curiously and asked, "Big sister, how much commission do you get for buying these things for others?" Jiang Ran held up 2 fingers, and both drivers were instantly amazed. 20,000 yuan. Isn't that way too easy to earn money? Both drivers were envious, wanting to ask who the boss was, but they didn't want to be too straightforward. This kind of opportunity was so good, why would someone just tell them? Soon after, the workers from the restaurant and pharmacy arrived on time with their goods. Jiang Ran accepted everything according to plan. Even though she didn't help move the items, she was still sweating profusely from the heat. May 3rd. In the morning, the vegetables, fruits, and rice that Jiang Ran had ordered from the wholesale agricultural market were also delivered. Bags of grains occupied nearly half of her shop's space. In the afternoon, the second batch of tables and seats for the restaurant was also delivered. Jiang Ran accepted the delivery and promised to settle the final payment in 3 days. While she was receiving the banquet items, the shop where she had ordered the solar panels for the next day's delivery called her. Jiang Ran hurriedly went back home. These 3 days had truly been like a whirlwind. When Jiang Ran returned, the shop owner and workers were already waiting outside with the equipment. Jiang Ran quickly opened the door, and the workers carefully brought the equipment inside. The shop owner smiled and said, "Sister, why are you installing solar panels in the residential area?" "Ah." Jiang Ran sighed, pretending to be a bit helpless. "The weather is getting hotter and hotter. The news says that many places are facing power shortages. If there's a blackout, it'll be unbearable. So, I thought about installing solar panels to use during power outages." The shop owner believed Jiang Ran's explanation and nodded. "You know what, our business has been doing pretty well lately. It seems like I should also install some at home." Jiang Ran smiled. "Shop owner, can my home use them?" The shop owner walked to the balcony outside, examining the direction and lighting. "Your house faces south and has a good floor. It gets sunlight all day. You can install the panels on the balcony. With the amount of sunlight we've been having these days, you won't have any issues with daily electricity consumption at home. You can use your air conditioning without worry. If you're not reassured, I can give you a high-capacity battery. Any excess electricity can be stored." Upon hearing this, Jiang Ran felt relieved. The weather was getting hotter and hotter, but as long as she had electricity at home, everything would be fine. The workers were all experienced, and it took them a little over an hour to install the solar panels. Jiang Ran signed the order form in front of the shop owner. After seeing them off, locking the door, Jiang Ran returned to the living room and sat down. She began to take stock of her existing supplies. She realized that while she had been busy stockpiling various items, she had forgotten the most important thing: self-defense weapons. How could the apocalypse not have weapons for protection? She had some very warm down jackets and quilts at home, and she had also bought similar items from the outdoor supplies store before, so she didn't need to buy cold weather gear again. She was prepared enough in that regard. Next, she searched online and found a local store that sold weapons, particularly ancient-style forged ones. She clicked on the store's page, surprised to find that the store was called Blunt Edge. Great! It discouraged many hot-blooded teenagers who wanted to buy weapons, and it discouraged Jiang Ran too. However, this was the only weapon store in her city, so she messaged them to inquire. Shop owner, I have a wuxia dream. Do you have any good daggers? After waiting for a while, the shop finally replied. It seemed like their business wasn't very busy since they didn't even have a dedicated customer service. We have them. Customer, which style are you looking for? I want one that's available for delivery tomorrow. Also, I want an authentic wuxia style dagger, not a store name version. On the other end of the internet, a handsome teenager of around 14 or 15 years old read the message and chuckled. They were kindred spirits. After a moment of consideration, he replied. Come to the store. And I'll have the master forge the best one for you. The price might be slightly higher than the online options. Price isn't an issue. Seeing the customer's response, the teenager jumped up in joy and went outside. In the courtyard, a young man sat on a bench, grinding a long sword. The hilt of the sword was engraved with simple patterns, and the blade bore natural patterns, making it quite beautiful. The teenager happily said, Bro, we're open for business. The customer is coming to inspect the goods tomorrow. MHM. The young man responded in a calm tone, his gaze fixed on the long sword he was holding. His white t-shirt was soaked with sweat, revealing a perfectly toned body. The teenager walked over to the young man's side. Bro, this customer is quite generous. They said money isn't an issue but that they want a sharp-edged dagger. The young man paused for a moment, looking up to reveal his handsome and mature face. The two shared some resemblance, with the teenager having a youthful and innocent appearance, while the young man appeared more mature and steady. His large eyes were both sharp and resolute. The young man glanced at the teenager and his voice took on a hint of seriousness. I'm not selling it. The teenager hesitated for a moment. Bro, we haven't opened the shop for months. How about we just make one sale after all? They're coming to pick it up in person. Nobody will know we sold it. I'm not selling it. He repeated, continuing to carefully grind the rough long sword in his hand. Got it. The teenager pouted and returned to the house to message the customer who had inquired earlier. Customer, the boss said he doesn't sell real wuxia-style daggers. But we do have store name versions. Our weapons are quite beautiful. After sending the message, the teenager's expression grew a bit despondent. If they didn't open the shop this month, his brother would have to go back to the construction site to do manual labor. And upon reading the reply, Jiang Ran frowned. She knew the reason why online stores didn't sell sharp-edged weapons: it was illegal. But this was a different time now, and Jiang Ran wouldn't buy weapons normally, but in the face of the impending apocalypse, she had no choice but to buy them. Thinking back to the attitude of the customer service representative earlier, Jiang Ran sent another message. Shop address. I'm sorry, customer, but we don't sell sharp-edged weapons. I apologize for any inconvenience. The teenager hesitated before sending this message, feeling the pain of losing a sale. This was a lot of money. Seeing the response, Jiang Ran wasn't surprised. However, online stores had to be registered under real names, so naturally, they had an address. Jiang Ran clicked on the store information and easily found the store's location. It wasn't far away, and she could get there in about half an hour.